Testing.
Oh, she's gonna do it, okay. So we might want to sit down because of her. Is there one? Who would sit down? Because we don't do anything. Everybody's here.
In a culture that is run by being strong, how do we stay weak?
Well, we are weak. We don't have to stay weak. I think it starts with, for me, with acknowledging my own weakness and my own neediness and my need for other people and my need to be honest with myself and with them about who I am and what I struggle with. You know, I've written 9 books. I'd like to think that many of them, The Courage to Teach would be an example, mount a pretty large and pretty significant case about how a whole profession needs to undergo a paradigm shift. But the one piece that I've written that has gotten the most response by far is a chapter in Let Your Life Speak about my experience with depression. it's my acknowledgement of weakness. It's my acknowledgement, it's my capacity to be vulnerable, which has made me more friends than whatever capacity I have to be smart and strong. It's always in the great Leonard Cohen song, and I'm an enormous Leonard Cohen fan. Forget your perfect offering. Ring the bells that still can ring. There's a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in. And, you know, I don't say that lightly. It took me 10 years after my first depression to write about it, because something in me knew that it would be dangerous to write about it until I had integrated it into my life, until I was able to say, this is part of who I am. I am darkness and I am light. I am graced and I am fallen. I am all of the above. And when you start understanding wholeness not as perfection, but as embracing everything you are, then you become more able to talk about it and to invite other people to share that those same pieces of their own lives. People have said to me, you know, you're a successful writer and teacher, how courageous of you to write about your depression. And I've always said, it's not about courage, it's about staying whole. It's about reminding myself of who I am and inviting others to embrace who they are. Whole in a personal sense and whole in that more communal sense, where you want to say, welcome to the human race, which to me is one of the most reassuring messages on the face of the earth. The unconditional love that allows you to look at another person who's just told you one of the hardest things in their lives, and simply to say, welcome to the human race.
Good morning. Are you all awake today? I've talked to a few folks and they're like, I'm just kind of sleepy today. Maybe we're still hanging on a little bit from that rainy Friday. I don't know, I was real sleepy that day. Well, maybe we'll try again. Good morning. Oh, we're awake, so nice. If you need to stretch or wake up, feel free to do that. I'm just glad that you're here to worship with us this morning, to have this time together. If you will, friends, take the books in the center aisle and write in them that you're here. Pass them to your neighbor. And if you're visiting with us, of course, there are cards in the pews in front of you to let you know a little bit about our church. And you can also fill one of those out and place them in the offering plate. So Parker Palmer talked about being whole, right? Of sharing even those maybe more vulnerable, intimate parts of his life. And today we're kind of talking about something that is maybe something that a lot of us keep on the inside. We've been taught to not share it. And that is anger. That's something that maybe we express more privately, right? Or we have learned over the years to shut down and ignore. But what happens sometimes when we ignore it? It just fizzles up and blows, right? Like we can't really shut it out entirely. We have to work through it one way or another. And so we're going to explore that today together in a few different ways. And I want to just say up front that it's okay to be angry. It's okay to have anger in your body about things, okay? So I want you to have that permission to feel that today as we are in worship. And maybe that's not what you're feeling today, but maybe it is. Either way, you get to be here and be whole. And that means bringing all that you are today this morning, whether that's filled with joy or sorrow or anxiety or anger, or maybe it's a combination of different emotions. You get to be present and feel that here today. And we're going to explore that together and about how that anger can even be a sacred, holy thing. It's part of what makes us whole. So I'm so glad that you came to worship with us this morning again as we continue this journey of understanding the sacred that is in our body and how we can be ultimately more whole people, ourselves and as a community together. So I'm going to invite you to stand up and to greet one another, to welcome each other to this space as a whole person. Christ is risen.
Christ is risen indeed.
Christ is risen.
Christ is risen indeed.
Christ is risen.
Christ is risen indeed.
I'm going to give you a warning. We decided to do that as our way to bring you back from greeting time throughout the Easter season, because Eastertide is 8 weeks. But next Sunday is Pentecost. So this is also your reminder to wear like reds and oranges and yellows. You get to wear fiery colors. But also, the worship leaders will start bringing you back next week with the chime. So you'll have to listen a little bit more. So, even though Christ is still risen next week too.
Thanks, Stephanie. Well, welcome to worship at Crossroads this morning. Want to invite you to worship freely as the Spirit leads you. And that might mean standing or clapping or sitting. And feel free, if other people stand, feel free to sit and be with your own thoughts if you need to be. But primarily, I want you to let the love of God enter you today and to wash over you. And we'd like for you to be able to leave here in a better place than when you came in. And your presence here today is a blessing to me. It's a blessing to others. So we thank you for that. And as we sing today, some of the songs may have words that are up on the screen that you don't want to sing. Feel free to change those words. If while out there where you're singing, you can change words to less words that bother you. If there's a trigger word, you don't have to sing that. So this song we're about to do is called Creating Sanctuary. And Trevor asked me to say a little bit about why I wrote the song. A while back, a few years back, a work group formed and came up with a mission statement for our church. And I don't have it memorized, but I'm going to read it to you. It is to create sanctuary for one another, to seek renewal of mind, body, and spirit, and to practice the liberating work of Jesus. So the creating sanctuary part is what I centered in on and wanted to write about that. And I've heard people's stories through the years about being hurt by their church, about being rejected by their church. And to me, I can't think of anything much worse to be rejected by your church, unless it's to be rejected by your biological family or family of origin. But you know, we want you to feel welcome here, and you don't need to pretend to be somebody you're not. And all the things that Stephanie was talking about, you can bring all that to church with you as you need to. and just be who you are here. And you're free to accept the love that we share, free to question, struggle, and dare. God is in you, God is everywhere, creating sanctuary. So as we sing this song, you can think about those.
Join us now as we try to create a place of refuge free from all hate. You're welcome here, come participate in creating sanctuary. Come, you've been hurt by church rejection. There's no need to pretend perfection. We're a wounded, healing, loving collection, creating sanctuary. We move together till the circle is formed, then we open up to receive each one. Whether you come from near or far, you're welcome here, just as you are, to our sanctuary, to our sanctuary. We're creating sanctuary. You're free to accept the love that we share. You're free to special question and dare. God is in you, God is everywhere, creating sanctuary. We move together till a circle is formed, then we open up to receive each one. Whether you come from near or far, you're welcome here, just as you are, to our sanctuary, to our sanctuary. We're creating sanctuary. Come all you hurting, bring your doubt, bring your pain. Born with us a safe haven chain. Sing with us a simple refrain, creating sanctuary. We move together till the circle is formed, then we open up to receive each one. Whether you come from near or far, you're welcome here, just as you are, to our sanctuary, to our sanctuary. We're creating sanctuary. We move together till the circle is formed, and we open up to receive each one. And whether you come from near or far, you're welcome here, just as you are, to our sanctuary, to our sanctuary. We're creating sanctuary.
Thank you.
My soul cries out with a joyful shout that the God of my heart is great. My spirit sings of the wondrous things that you bring to the ones who wait. You fixed your sight on a servant's plight, and my weakness you did not spurn. So from east to west shall my name be blessed. Could the world be about to turn? My heart shall sing of the day you bring. Let the fires of your justice burn. Wipe away all tears, for the dawn draws near, and the world is about to turn. Though I am small, my God, my all, you work great things in me. And your mercy will last from the depths of the past to the end of the age to be. Your very name puts the proud to shame, and to those who adore you yearn. You will show your might, put the strong to flight, for the world is about to turn. My heart shall sing of the day you bring. Let the fires of your justice burn. Wipe away all tears, for the dawn draws near, and the world is about to turn. Halls of power to the fortress tower, not a stone will be left on stone. Let the king beware, for your justice takes every tyrant from his throne. The hungry poor shall weep and mourn, for the blood they can never earn. There are tables spread, every mouth be fed, for the world is about to turn. My heart shall sing of the day you bring. Let the fires of your justice burn. Wipe away all tears, for the dawn draws near, and the world is about to turn. Though the nations rage from age to age, we remember who holds us fast. God's mercy must deliver us from the conqueror's crushing grasp. This saving word that our forebears heard is the promise which holds us bound. Till the spear and rod can be crushed by God, who is turning the world around. My heart shall sing of the day you bring. Let the fires of your justice burn. Wipe away all tears, for the dawn draws near, and the world is about to turn. My heart shall sing of the day you bring. Let the fires of your justice burn. Wipe away all tears, for the dawn draws near, and the world is about to turn. Bend my rigidity, sweeten my bitterness, open my closed and hardened heart. Bend my rigidity, sweeten my bitterness,
grant us comfort, we all harm. Grant us pardon, we have cold hearts. Only you can warm. Bless my enemies. I release them to you through my prayer. Bless my enemies. May your mercy and grace be there. Bless my enemies. Bind their wounds, calm their souls, touch their hearts, and bring them joy. Bind their wounds, calm their souls, touch their hearts, and bring them joy. Bless my enemies. I release them to you through my prayer. Bless my enemies. May your mercy and grace be there. Bless my enemies. I release them to you through my prayer. Bless my enemies. May your mercy and grace be there. Bless my enemies. Bless my enemies. Bless my enemies.
Thinking about the folks that we may harbor coldness toward, or maybe it is even situations in life that we harbor some coldness or anger towards. Maybe our life hasn't turned out quite like we expected would, or it's taken a turn. It's not been what we had hoped for. Or maybe this morning you're even reaching beyond yourself and looking at the circles around you, and you are carrying some coldness of heart, some anger, some feelings of angst about things that are happening in these circles that we inhabit. And so I want to invite us into a time of prayer, kind of turning our focus quietly for a few moments to those things, to draw to your mind the place where you are feeling that coldness or that anger, that resistance. Just take a moment to close your eyes and relax your body and let your focus be drawn to that, because it's not something that we have to ignore and shut away. Let's just be quiet for a moment. God, we bring to you this morning the parts of our hearts, of our whole bodies that are weary, that are angry, that may feel hardened against someone in our lives, against others out in the world, or against movements beyond us, actions that are happening and taking place. We bring to you what we're carrying inside of us. Maybe it's anger and coldness and a hardened heart because we have been let down by people that we are friends with. Or maybe our health has turned in a direction that is robbing us or our loved ones of the life we thought we would have. Or maybe lately our minds have been drawn to the things happening in our city and in our state and even beyond. To children that are without, to bodies that are dying in the street, to people who are having their rights taken away. We wish we lived in a world that was full of love and compassion and acceptance, and yet there is a lot of hardship and there is a lot of sadness. And whether it is personal or beyond us, it seeps into our lives. And sometimes it rises up anger within us. And so, God, we bring that to you this morning because we are weary too from crying out, "How long, O Lord? How long will this go on? How long will we wake up and read yet another story of hatred or pain or loss? How long will we wake up and go on hurting from this world?" And so we bring that to you. We want to believe that these feelings have potential to turn into things that are life-giving, that they can be transformative in our own lives and in the circles around us. But we also know that if we hold on to those things too tightly and we block out all the light trying to creep in, if we fester on those things and don't give them the opportunity to change us, we can become captive to our own anger. It can take hold of us. We have an opportunity to shape that anger and those feelings of hardened hearts and to make change, or we can be changed by it and let it consume us. And so we bring all that we carry to you this morning, O God. We lay it out before you, inviting you to seep into our hearts, to stir up those feelings that we have into something productive and transformative and healing. We cry out, "How long, O Lord?" Because we are tired of hoping and not seeing what will be. So we breathe this prayer together. We breathe in saying, "How long, O Lord?" And we breathe out, "I'm tired of hoping." We breathe in, "How long, O Lord?" And out, "I'm tired of hoping." How long, O Lord? I'm tired of hoping. How long, O Lord? I'm tired of hoping. We pour that out through our very breaths to you, O God, because we know that we are not alone. We are amongst friends who are longing as well, and that you long with us. But our faith in you restores that hope, and you remind us that you will turn this world upside down, that we will be instruments of your work, shaping it into the beloved community. How long, O Lord? We are tired, but we are not done. Renew us, fill us with your hope and your purpose, and use us for your beloved community. Amen.
I invite you to stand on this song.
You will keep the fires burning. 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 We're standing in the desert of dry bones, but still we see your light, walking through the valley of shadows, but holding on to life. And we're waiting, waiting on you, God. And our hearts will trust in who you are. God who keeps the fires burning, burning through the darkest night. See the hope in our hearts, the faith in our eyes. You can move the highest mountain. You can keep our dreams alive. You're the joy of our hearts. And you're the fire in our eyes. We're standing in the desert of dry bones, but still we see your light, walking through the valley of shadows, but holding on to life. And we're waiting, waiting on you, Lord. And our hearts will trust in who you are. God who keeps the fire burning, burning through the darkest night. See the hope in our hearts, the faith in our eyes. You can move the highest mountain. You can keep our dreams alive. You're the joy of our hearts. You're the fire in our eyes. Light up the lives with holy flame. Uphold the honor of your name. Give us the strength to face the day. Light up our lives with holy flame. Uphold the honor of your name. Give us the strength to face the day. You're the fire in our burning, burning through the darkest night. See the hope in our hearts, the faith in our eyes. You can move the highest mountain. You can keep our dreams alive. You're the joy in our hearts, and you're the fire in our eyes. You're the fire in our eyes. You're the fire in our eyes. Light up our lives. You're the fire in our eyes. You will keep the fires burning. You will keep the fires burning.
We're reading from Mark chapter 11. On the following day, when they came from Bethany, he was hungry. Seeing in the distance a fig tree in leaf, he went to see whether perhaps he would find anything on it. When he came to it, he found nothing but leaves, for it was not the season for figs. He said to it, "May no one ever eat fruit from you again." And his disciples heard it.
Then they came to Jerusalem, and he entered the temple and began to drive out those who were selling and those who were buying in the temple. And he overturned the tables of the money changers and the seats of those who sold doves, and he would not allow anyone to carry anything through the temple. He was teaching and saying, "Is it not written, 'My house shall be called a house of prayer for all the nations'? But you have made it a den of robbers." Would you pray with me? Mother, Father, God, we come here to praise you, to sing, to be sanctuary for one another, and also to bring our offerings. May what we bring today be blessed and multiplied as the fishes and loaves were multiplied. May they spread to do your work in this world. We praise you and thank you in Jesus' name. Amen.
With those who are going to receive the offering, please come forward. These pieces broken and scattered, in mercy gathered, bended and whole, empty-handed but not forsaken. You've been set free, I've been set free. You take our failure, you take our weakness, you set your treasure in jars of clay. So take this heart, Lord, I'll be your vessel, the world to see your life in me. Oh, amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. Oh, I once was lost, but now I am found, was blind, but now I see. I can see you now. Oh, I can see the love in your eyes, laying yourself down, raising up the broken to life.
see the love in your eyes, laying yourself down, raising up the broken to life. Oh, I can see you now. Oh, I can see the love in your eyes, laying yourself down, raising up the broken to life.
Do you indeed decree what is right, you gods? Do you judge people fairly? No, in your hearts you devise wrongs. Your hands deal out violence on earth.
The wicked go astray from the womb. They err from their birth, speaking lies. They have venom like the venom of a serpent, like the deaf adder that stops its ear, so that it does not hear the voice of charmers or of the cunning enchanter.
O God, break the teeth in their mouths. Tear out the fangs of the young lions, O Lord. Let them vanish like water that runs away. Like grass, let them be trodden down and wither. Let them be like the snail that dissolves into slime, like the untimely birth that never sees the sun. Sooner than your pots can feel the heat of thorns, whether green or ablaze, may he sweep them away.
The righteous will rejoice when they see vengeance done. They will bathe their feet in the blood of the wicked. People will say, surely there's a reward for the righteous. Surely there's a God who judges on earth.
I told him to read dramatically, but I think y'all could have been a little more like, break the teeth of the wicked. It's kind of weird to read that, right? Go follow through the Psalms and you will find some really potent language and imagery. The psalmist seems to really have it out for someone or someones, don't they? In this particular psalm. Break their teeth, tear out their fangs, make them vanish. And then he wants all the righteous to bathe their feet in the blood of the wicked. It doesn't exactly sound like the loving Christian vibe, right? That we kind of go for. I mean, he just sounds angry. Just angry. Anger and rage is something that I think the church has really struggled to understand and talk about and what place it has. We often minimize it. We talk about turning the other cheek and loving our enemies. We handle things, we try to handle things with compassion, right? And peacefully. And we don't want anger to be a part of that. But of course, we've seen the damage that, anger can do in church. It really is there, right? In a lot of congregations. Throughout history, it has been used to manipulate and to dominate. So I wonder, what place does it have? And does it have to be an either or? Is all anger bad and unchristian? Is some anger useful? Is there an important place for our anger to take up? And I know that this church is full of a lot of Enneagram 9s. So if you identify as an Enneagram 9, maybe hold someone's hand this morning or something like that. I don't know. Do what you need to comfort yourself as I talk about rage and anger. Some of us may confess at least that interior anger is okay, kind of like what we're seeing in the psalmist here, right? That it may not be the purest of mindsets, but that we do have to address our anger, that we have to do something with it. And so maybe you have a practice of writing out your anger. You just don't expect them to one day show up in the canon of the Bible. Or maybe you like to scream into a pillow, right? Maybe you have some practice of how you work through your anger. Maybe you sit at a therapist, which is a really healthy way of walking through your anger, right? We might agree that anger isn't bad as long as it isn't used to harm others. As long as we kind of keep it to ourselves in private. But I'm going to be honest, I get angry sometimes too. And it can be hard to keep it all in. And sometimes I don't even know if keeping it in is the right thing to do. Do you ever find yourself in that position? Does something ever just make your blood boil? Do you look around at the injustice in the world or right here in our own city and sometimes just feel really angry that things aren't better than they are? Angry that writing or calling our representatives doesn't seem to change anything. Angry that humans, beloved children of God, are being treated without dignity. That they are losing rights rather than gaining rights. That beloved children of God are dying in the streets. Does anybody get angry? Thank you for your honesty. You're like, I got no problem naming it. You don't have to raise your hand. But we get angry sometimes, right? I'm sure a lot of us do. And do you ever get angry with Christianity or with your own Christian faith? Because we profess to stand with the vulnerable and to seek God's justice, and yet we do all turn the other cheek, and we don't want to risk being too political and upsetting folks, so we stay silent. What do we do with that kind of anger? Is there a way to harness it to bring about change? I mean, that is something that I grapple with, that I really try to think about. And so reading Cole Arthur Riley's chapter on rage really gave me an opportunity to do a bit more of that grappling. I think it becomes particularly complicated for some of us because we live in a white patriarchal culture. You knew that, I know. But we live in this culture which has controlled the anger of so many bodies. Women's bodies, persons of color's bodies, so many. It has restricted and dismissed anger. So let me talk a little bit about what that looks like if you can't name it exactly. So as a woman, I learned early on that if I showed anger, if my voice rose or it trembled, if my hands shook, if my face looked stern, I was easily written off as just another angry woman. I wasn't taken seriously. And my experience is not near as extreme of that of many black and brown persons, men and women. Michelle Obama, who some of us read one of her latest books just recently, this well-educated, emotionally intelligent, accomplished former first lady regularly faced criticism for being just another angry black woman when she would speak up about injustice. And Cole Arthur Riley in her book talks about how the emotions and expressions of those emotions, particularly for persons of color or for women's bodies, are controlled and judged. And we can look throughout history and still today and see how anger in the black body has been restricted and even used to ignore the injustices at hand. Like, have you heard or said, well, don't be too loud? And don't say it in that way, and don't march there. Don't be destructive in any way. Don't do it this way or that way or that way. As if to say, if you will express your anger in a way that we approve of, then your injustice will be addressed and possibly resolved. Except we know that's not often what happens, because the line of what is acceptable gets moved. But if our white-dominated world can turn the focus upon the way that you express your anger or rage, even to the point of sometimes criminalizing it, then we can just ignore the injustice that is at the root of your anger. Do you see what I'm saying here? We focus on the way that the anger is being expressed so that we can ignore why the anger is there in the first place. We saw this really clearly a few years ago with Black Lives Matter. The judgment of the organization for the behavior of some in protests and marches hurt the entire movement. A movement that was bigger than the actual nonprofit organization, right? It gave people something to focus on and criticize, and allowed them to push to the side the true problem that Black lives were lying in our streets. We had something we had our Black Lives Matter signs that some of you still have in your yards that name some of our members as well on those signs. And when we made those years ago, someone that wasn't a part of our congregation but knew of us reached out and wanted to make sure that we weren't giving money directly to the Black Lives Matter organization, and that we were just adding our names to the larger movement. And my response was, I'm really just focused on the people that are dying in the streets right now. I don't feel like we can talk about anger from the perspective of a Black woman, Cole Arthur Riley, in her book, without acknowledging this. That our white world, many of us included, even by our own silent corroboration, silence the anger of minority voices. And that's a truth I think that we have to wrestle with collectively and individually, and ask ourselves, why do we do that? For some, it's the protection of power and domination. For some, it's the fear of being made to feel uncomfortable or complicit in any way. The fragility of the oppressor needs to stop standing in the way of truth being spoken and justice being accomplished. In the wake of so many changes that feel like justice and rights rolling backwards in recent months in our country, including in our own state with the recent ban on trans-affirming healthcare for minors, a common phrase has been popping up on social media, and you may have seen it, and it says, "I won't be quiet so that you can be comfortable." I won't be quiet so you can be comfortable. We have a lot of concern about staying comfortable, ourselves and keeping others comfortable. And it reminds me of the words of civil rights activist, womanist, professor, poet, philosopher, she's a lot of things, Audre Lorde, who said, "I cannot hide my anger to spare your guilt nor hurt your feelings. Guilt is not a response to anger. It is a response to one's own actions or lack of action. If it leads to change, then it can be useful, since it is then no longer guilt, but the beginning of knowledge." Sometimes I think anger is needed. Sometimes we won't be heard unless we're angry, or we won't be bothered to do anything unless we're angry. We won't be bothered to flip a few tables. And that's what we see Jesus doing in our other scripture this morning, right? The church has long tried to water down and pacify this story, but it's pretty hard to see what Jesus is doing as a peaceful action. We see him first cursing a fig tree because it's not bearing any fruit. And it's really a strange story because it's not the season for the fruit to be on the branches. Most of you don't go out in the winter and curse your plants for not growing leaves, right? Like, it's not the right season. And I can't imagine being the disciples watching him thinking, have you lost your mind? And I wonder, because we see the next story come immediately afterwards in the temple, if that is actually the more extreme of Jesus' anger. Maybe he wanted to go even further and curse the people in the temple, right? But instead he chose to curse the fig tree. Like I want to sometimes yell into my pillow or something like that, right? Maybe that's where he let out a little bit of his steam. But he still goes into the temple pretty riled up because they have made this sacred space a den of robbers. They are exploiting people, making them pay for sacrifices that will then be given inside the temple so that they can be in God's good graces. This was to be a place of belonging, a place where all were welcomed. And yet here, exclusion and exploitation is going on. I remember a college religion class when we were discussing this story, particularly the fig tree and the cursing of the tree, and our professor said, sometimes things just need to be cursed. And I was really puzzled as a college student. I didn't know if he was just like giving me permission to swear when I wanted to or what. It was really, as a young Christian, it was like, whoa, what's happening here? But I have come back and thought about that statement a lot. Because over the years, of course, I've seen a lot more injustice around me. And I began to understand the meaning behind those words, that sometimes the evil in the world needs to be cursed. It needs to be condemned. It needs to be called out. Now, I love talking about how human Jesus is. Like, that's one of my favorite things. And here we see him really fully. We see him more whole, like Parker Palmer was talking about. He's angered at how this place of belonging and prayer of sacredness has been misused. And it wasn't really about the building, right? It was about the people. It was about the people who were being mistreated, who were being oppressed and put out. They had come to be with their God, and others were taking advantage of them. Cole Arthur Riley writes, "What freedom it is to witness a God whose primary concern is not for how he makes the oppressor feel, but for feeling alongside the oppressed and telling the truth about it." We need more truth-telling in this world. Anger can be destructive to others, to ourselves. If anger and rage exist within us by themselves, they can paralyze us. They can destroy us. They can turn into hatred. They can deeply harden our hearts. But anger can also be productive. It can be harnessed to bring about change. Brené Brown talks about how anger can be a catalyst, transforming into something that is life-giving. When anger is harnessed with purpose, and it's used for transformation, and it is paired with things like forgiveness, and eventually healing and reconciliation, it can be productive. And it can bring about positive changes within ourselves, within our circles, and within our world. So is it possible to express anger without dismissing another person's inherent dignity and personhood? Because I think sometimes that's part of the concern. Because we want to just lash out, maybe. We could go around on that, but I do think it is possible. I like to think it is possible and something that we have to work towards. And perhaps it begins with making sure that our focus is on defending the dignity of the oppressed and the harmed, any harmed part of creation, and less on cutting down and diminishing the dignity of the oppressor. We've been taught that all anger is bad, that all expressions of anger are bad, but more and more I am learning and seeing how that has been used to control and manipulate and silence the oppressed, to keep the oppressed oppressed. Sometimes our world maybe needs a dose of holy anger, like Jesus served up that day in the temple. Cole Arthur Riley calls this liberating anger. Liberating anger. She differentiates between anger that dominates and anger that liberates. And after speaking about how white rage is often used in defense of oppressive power rather than in defense of dignity, she goes on to say, holy anger is that which liberates. It marches, chants, and flips tables, demanding wrong be called by its rightful name. It is both passion and calculation, longing for more, but for the sake of justice and dignity. Maybe that's something to sit with. Maybe it's a kind of litmus test for us when anger rises up. Is our anger rooted in the desire for justice and goodness and dignity? Or is it in the desire for domination or control or even greater inflation of our own sense of self-worth? Because Jesus' anger that day was a liberating anger. It sought to free the oppressed and restore the dignity of the vulnerable, to reignite the spirit of belonging, the belonging that all people were intended to experience in God's house. So what makes you angry? Maybe you're not angry today, but open the newspaper tomorrow and you might be, you never know. Some days all we need to do is just look at the news or turn on social media or something like that, hear a story from a friend, or another occurrence of an injustice, and we're angry. We might ask ourselves, are we disturbed enough to do something about it? Will you pay attention to the anger that's in your body? To ask yourself why it's there. And then ask yourself if it's there because it's seeking to liberate. Robert did a nice job reading our mission statement earlier. And that last part says to practice the liberating work of Jesus. And that means a whole lot of things. It really does. Perhaps sometimes it's liberating anger that frees others. So maybe pay attention to it the next time you feel that rising up in your body. And pray and ask God if you are being moved to change in some way, because the change likely begins in you. And then maybe you are moved to act on behalf of God's sacred and beloved creation and to liberate it. The band's gonna make their way forward and we're gonna sing Instruments of Your Peace, which can be a peaceful song. And you may be feeling very peaceful right now, which is great. Or you may be feeling some angst or unease. You might still be gripping the hand of the person next to you. But I invite you, as you sing, to bring your whole self to this song. And perhaps if you have felt some anger in your body recently, this may be an expression of that, a way for you to let that out and to be transformed and to be used for God.
Lord, make us instruments of your peace. Where there is hatred, let your love increase. Lord, make us instruments of your peace. Walls of pride and prejudice shall cease when we are your instruments of peace. Where there is hatred, we will sow your love. Where there is injury, we will never judge. Where there is striving, we will speak your peace to the people crying for release. We will be your instruments of peace. Lord, make us instruments of your peace. Where there's hatred, let your love increase. Lord, make us instruments of your peace. Walls of pride and prejudice shall cease when we are your instruments of peace. Where there is blindness, we will make for sight. Where there is darkness, we will shine your light. Where there is sadness, we will bear their grief. To the millions crying for release, we will be your instruments of peace. Lord, make us instruments of your peace. Where there is hatred, let your love increase. Lord, make us instruments of your peace. Walls of pride and prejudice shall cease when we are your instruments of peace. Lord, make us instruments of your peace. Where there is hatred, let your love increase. Lord, make us instruments of your peace. Walls of pride and prejudice shall cease when we are your instruments of peace. Lord, make us instruments of your peace.
You to sit just for a couple announcements real quick. And I encourage you to grab one of these on the way out if you don't have one yet, because there's a lot going on in like the next 2 weeks. One is that this Wednesday night, there's a game night down in the church fellowship hall. So come and bring a favorite game or a snack to share, and we'll have a nice fellowship time together. Also, we're still working to get the community room finished. And so on Saturday, June 3rd at 9 a.m., folks will be in there painting. And we still need a few more painters. So please, if you can come at 9 on Saturday, June 3rd, come and help paint in that room. If you have questions, Larry, raise your hand. Larry can answer those questions probably better than me. Also on June 3rd, you can paint in the morning, and then at night, you can come to Pride Night with the KC Current. So that's the women's soccer team, and they do a really great Pride Night, and that worked with our schedule better than the Royals this year, so we're gonna spread the love, and as a church, go to the Pride Night for the KC Current. Tickets are $25. You have to sign up by May 28th. There's several of our members that already have season tickets, so I think they're going to arrange some tailgating beforehand. There's a sign up in the lobby if you would like to sign up, and then you can make your payment when you're ready, but we want to make sure we get you a ticket. So this should be fun. Come and join us, have fun. I'll be there. It'll be a good time. You can wear your Pride colors, wear your Crossroads Pride shirt. Oh, and in halftime, on the screen or whatever, they'll announce that we're there as a church. And then the other couple quick announcements I want to make are around Pride, because we are really just a couple weeks away, right, from a little over a week away from Pride Month, and we have a big part in the Pride Fest this year. We're going to march in the parade like we did last year, but we also have a booth. And our Pride team met last week and came up with great ideas for what we're going to do. It's really going to be fun, including glitter blessings, which just sound fantastic. So we have booth time Friday and Saturday and Sunday on June 9th through 11th. And Joellen and Eli have put up sign-ups outside that have 2-hour time blocks where you can volunteer to be at the booth, and we need at least 2 people in the booth at all times. So you can sign up for what works for you. You can also sign up for the parade. We would just love to have you be a part of that and really want to show our love and support throughout Pride Fest this year. So Eli and Joellen will be outside. If you have questions, they'll be there to help you get signed up. So you can sign up for that. You can sign up for the KC Current game. And if you can, there's a special basket to throw in some dollars for the cost of being a part of Pride Fest. And you can also, is it on this one? It's not on this one, but there's a poster thing out there that tells you how to give if you want to do it through the church, or if you want to use Venmo, or you can put in cash. There's a pretty decent fee just to be in the parade and the Pride Fest booth, and so we paid for those, but we need additional funds to help pay for our little prizes and our little giveaways and things like that. We did this last year and it worked out great. Folks chipped in $10, $5, 20, whatever they had, and it covered all of it. So if you can do so, we appreciate that. Helps us get a little closer to making our participation in the event just really a lovely, welcoming, belonging experience. I think that's all I have for announcements. If not, please read your newsletter in this. There's lots going on right now. After church, we're downstairs for a community meeting. There is an update on our creative arts camp this summer, as well as some building use rental information, and facilities is going to be talking about some repairs we need, some replacements we need to make with our HVAC units. So it is an important, informative meeting. If you can join us down there, hopefully you brought a sack lunch. If not, there is peanut butter and jelly downstairs as well, and Carolyn made a chocolate sheet cake, which might entice you to come downstairs. Look at that. Everybody knows anything Carolyn bakes is worth coming downstairs for. So she just juiced up the community meeting for you. So sweetened it up. So, and Trevor is facilitating, and that's always fun too. So come downstairs if you can and join us for that meeting. We'll try to keep it concise. And we'll get moving, because then I'm going to go watch a baseball game because Finn just won his game. So baseball parents, we're crazy thing. I think we're like our own animal, really. So all right, let's stand and pray as we go out today. Know that you are loved, all of you, each person, and all of your own personhood. That you are accepted and embraced. Your joy, your sorrow, your laughter, your anxiety, your anger, whatever it is that you are carrying and feeling, you are loved fully. And those feelings that you have help shape you. So be curious about them and lean into them. Be curious about how God is moving in you and guiding your heart. And open yourself to God's Spirit. Go in peace. Amen.